Okay, this is entirely superfluous, but I just wanted to point out something I noticed. So I'm going to copy down the Hic ego multas puellas futui inscription as I see it here in the image. So it's just something I noticed about it. I have a very precarious camera setup. Please excuse the glitches, but fix this. Trying to do it in the... Okay, so there's a serif on this H. Just trying to be faithful, roughly. So this is obviously seems to be the first part of the hic, and then this I imagine is the C. Although that line shouldn't be there. And then seems like this character is an E, and given the relationship between the K and G sounds, it makes sense that this, with this little tick, becomes G, and then this is the O sound. And it seems like they use something like this just to show you that we're on a new word. So this is hic ego. I think we can agree on that. But the order in the assignment is hic ego multas puellas futui, but I believe, just looking at it, that it's different. And again, I'm copying this down directly. This is the third word. This looks like a V that's not connected, or an I, or a U, I suppose. And then this looks like another sort of E, like here. It's not. It doesn't look exactly the same, but I believe my theory is that that is another E. And then these two characters, these next two characters, look like different characters almost. But I mean, he's chiseling in stone. I believe that they are the same character. And then finally the word ends, or no, it doesn't end yet. We have this character next. And then a little tick here for some reason. And then that characteristic. So to me, what this looks like is the word puellas. This looks like a P, U, E. That would, if this is E, that would match up with this as being related characters. And then L, L, A, S. I'm mixing my upper and lower case here. But I believe that is puellas. And then it goes on to the side, but I don't have much room in the frame, so I'm just going to move the next word down. It really looks like this thing he does is an M. This is a little more even and M-like than what he writes, but it's basically exactly the same stroke for stroke, except this is a little more of an acute angle here. And then a V, unmistakable V, and then this silly little character that still looks different between here and here, but I believe it's an L again. And then this faded T, which it sits lower than everything else, and looks like it's, this is how it appears in the scan, but I believe that this must have been connected at some point before the rock face chipped away or something like that. And then this character, which is new for this graffiti, that's about what it looks like. You notice that this little segment here looks related to this little tick mark here. Clean this up and finish the inscription. And then we have a similarly wide hand that writes this character. looks very similar to this, albeit a different amount of squiggliness. And I'll put the last word below, just so I don't overlap here, as he does in it. Actually, you know what, I will put it right here, because in the original inscription it is directly below this word. So we have this very like elven script looking F, which I really like the look of, to be honest, even though it's such a vulgar word. But I like when handwritten letters flow like this, very cursive. It's on a rock face, which is very impressive that he manages all this curvature. And then this V, and we all know what this word is, we can agree on that. And then this very nice calligraphic T compared to this T, which, again, if I'm being true to the original inscription, for one, this word is up here, but the T looks something like this. And it's clearly missing a chunk because the line is thick here, and then it drops out in the middle here, and then there's this equally thick line. So it looks like there's just a square missing there. And then another V, which is a little lopsided this time. Again, doesn't quite connect at the base, but it's still got a nice curve. And then this I, which I rather like. Very artsy. Although it does seem like it could be confused with an S. But this to me is like, it almost shows like, I don't know, some kind of potential cultural exchange with Arab script and a lot of Greek influence, and I don't know. I'm not a linguist, that's just speculation. I don't speak any of these languages. But this very clearly looks like Puelas, and this very clearly to me looks like Multas. And yet, in what we're given in the assignment, this is the order we get. But I think I'm just going to replace the use of V's and make it all caps just for matching this sake. I'm also going to put the rest of the letters. Why not keep these consistent? It should be hic, ego, puellas, multas, futuri. If I was trying to mimic his handwriting a little bit, put that up to this. No, I'll just zoom out a little bit. I'm balanced on two glasses here. If I was matching his handwriting, it looks something like also if I was trying to be a little more clear about my lettering, as though taking his script as being completely correct. By the way, as someone who's studied a little bit of Hebrew, the way he writes these letters reminds me a lot of how Hebrew letters are written. There's all kinds of things like this, where you have these lines that don't quite connect, but they form a letter together. And again, a lot of just like the shapes he's using reminds me a lot of Greek. I don't know exactly if the similarities between his specific handwriting and the contemporary Greek line up, but I would not be shocked if they do. Also, this reminds me a lot. I'm going to write it as he does here, combining these two, because he's got this flourish here. This reminds me a lot of certain Hebrew letters. This also reminds me of a Hebrew letter. The way that the words are the letters, I mean, are connected by these branches. It's very interesting. And I'm going to do the contemporary practice of using dots to denote letters or word separation. Again, trying to maintain consistency that can account for all of his mistakes, or apparent mistakes at any rate. And something else that I find interesting is how his handwriting does like the whiteboard thing where it kind of changes as he moves along the line, because he's, I don't know, reaching to a higher spot maybe. And then he's got that S thing again. Put these there. And then finally, the most recognizable word, and the funniest word, of course, the very naughty Latin word that lacks a certain decorum. Oh yeah, I like that very cursive shape he's got for this T. I'm going to cue it for both T's. And this is my favorite letter he uses. And if I do the shape right, yeah, he's got a little... I must make it correct. He's got a little curve there, straight down, curve to the left. I wonder what the Latin words at the time for left and right were. This is so this, below this line, is a very cleaned up version, basically, of the original transcription, with these dots inserted to make it clearer, and with a little more consistency between the letters. But I think that this word order is more correct than this one in terms of matching up to the original transcription.